Nested data refers to data structures within other data structures. So if you have a list with an embedded list, a list with embedded dictionaries, et cetera, et cetera. How do you work with them? How do you index into it? Working through those intricacies and those complications. It gets hairy. It all depends on how clean the code is that you're working on. The messier it is, and the person whose job it was to set up the data structure and the tables, really need to think about how you're setting up your data before you set it up. And because eventually, as your code gets more complex, how you name your data, if you're embedding lists within lists within lists, or dictionaries within dictionaries, it proves to be a problem, and it creates unintended mistakes, bugs that will take you a long time to fix and find. But you really want to take the time to think about how you're structuring your data before you even do it. And there's actually before you do projects, you do a data structure analysis on every project that you do. So you can thoroughly vet, how you're using the data and how you're going to, like, if it's necessary to nest it, if it's necessary to, to really, and it's called relational data. So how does each piece of data relate to the next piece, and what is the best way to set it up? James.
So you said something about kind of keeping it clean.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a rule of thumb? Like how many, so you said like, so you would have a dictionary within a list or a list
Mm-hmm.
within a dictionary. Should you just keep it at like that one instead of having multiple nested, or like what would your recommendation be of like, if you want to keep it clean, don't go no more than this much nested?
It's not a hard and fast rule, okay?
Okay.
But if you're nesting, you want to be really cognizant of that it's named correctly, and that you've thought through, is it really necessary to nest it that way? There's other ways to do databases. And if you think about it, like an inventory set, right? You have, cornflakes and the different brands of cornflakes, and the size of the box, and is it sweetened or unsweetened, or does it have strawberries or whatever? Like, these, sometimes you're stuck with doing the database that way, with dictionaries within dictionaries or lists within lists. But again, it's thinking it through and making sure that you understand why you're setting it that way, and that the next person who looks at your code understands that why you did it that way too. Because going back once you started, number one, to set up your data, or number two, to go fix your data after it's like a total mess, is not worth your time. So take the the opportunity and those steps first, and then think through your data, how you're setting it up, and then go from there. And in time, as we build bigger and bigger pieces of code, and you guys work on like larger projects, whether it's with here or in flagship, those are things that we'll get to, and we'll teach, like, how to do relationship data, and how to work with databases. So we're going to be doing it in Flask, with SQLite and Alchemy, and then so we'll be doing that in this cohort, and then in flagship, we'll expand on SQL itself. Okay, so so when you're nesting data, it's one method of handling complex data, right? So let's just start. I don't even have VS Code open. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Anyone have a question while I do this? Let's see what's in the chat. Just hi, hellos. Okay. James Hoholick being funny about vaping. Okay. Now my VS Code is being slow. I'm sorry. Just be patient. All right, so I am going to share the screen. Okay. Everyone can see my screen okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, perfect, thanks. Okay, so let's just look at a simple code example of to make sure that everyone understands what we're talking about. Okay. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so here I have a list within a list. So if you're a little confused as to what I'm talking about, so I have a list that's created named matrix. And within it, I have 3 nested lists with 3 objects in it, in those individual lists. So then I have 3 objects with 3 objects inside of each object. Okay. So then we have a dictionary here. So here we have Alice, right? And so you have a key pair, and then you have a key named grades, and then you have a nested dictionary of each subject with the grade. Okay, so typically when you're in Python, you would set it up this way. You would do your, if it's a dictionary, you can do it like this to make it easier to read. So this way, the user that's coming after you understands without a doubt, without having to look at your code like, oh my God, what is this? By separating your curly brackets in this fashion, and this would actually go like this. It's immediately evident that you have nested dictionaries. Okay. All right. So let's see. How do we access each individual element object within? So within, let's start with the list within a list. If I want to access the number 6, what you have to do is, just like we learned in indexing, you have to call the object first of the outer nested, and then you call the object the index of the object that you're calling within this list. So if you see this list, I have index 0, index 1, and index 2, right? If I want to call the 6, I will then have to call 0, 1, 2. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So in this example, you'll see I want to print matrix. So I call the list, and then I call the outer nested, and then I call the individual index. Does that make sense? All right, so if I save and print, and this is okay, so here you'll see that I have a 6. Sandra.
Little confusion on with the list being in hard brackets, and the lists inside the hard brackets. Why is the first object in the list not 0?
Okay, so this would be
0, 1, 2.
So it's 0, 1, 2.
Well, understand within the list that there be number 0, 1, 2, but there's also, when I'm looking at that, I'm seeing this as 1, 2, 3 is 0, 4, 5, 6 is 1, and fast is 2.
So when you have nested, you call the index number as a 1. It starts with a 1 when it's nested. No. It's correct. It's 0, 1, and 2, right? So I'm calling within index 1, and then I'm calling index 2, which is 6. So it's 0, 1, and 2. Right? So you want to call the outer nested first. So it's, if I do it this way, right? This would be 0, index 0. Right? This would be index 1. So here I'm calling index 1. Right? And then 0, 1, 2. And so you see here I call a 2. Okay. Sorry, it was like talking about different language. Okay. All right. So does that make sense? Our counting's off today. It's okay. It's all good. Okay. So then what happens if, again, same thing. Dictionaries are different. To call a dictionary, what do you have to do? Someone want to raise their hand? If I want to call an object in a dictionary, what do I do? How do I call it? Yes.
You call it with the key, right?
Yeah, you're going to call it with the key.
And I had a quick question. If you
yes.
have a list within a dictionary, can you call it with the key, then call the list with the index?
Yeah, so you would call the index. So if it's a list and then the dictionary is nested, you call the outer part first and then the inner part. Remember, Python's reading linearly, so it goes top to bottom, left to right. So it's going to encounter this bracket first, right? I'm sorry, the outer bracket, which is a list, right? Then if it's a dictionary inside of there, then you have to call based on a dictionary. Cool? River.
Why does the indentation for Alice and everything that does it need to be like that? Can it just be all on? I mean, that's just I'm getting confused why it's all.
Yeah, so it can all be on one line.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but syntactically, most people in Python prefer that you because it's a separate dictionary, that you separate this out.
Okay.
So it's obvious when you're just reading down code that it's indexed. It's not. It's just a preference. It's preference, but it's, typically you would see the nested dictionary like tiered like that. Cool. And that's more like when you get to classes, it's done the same exact way. So it's just easier to read. It's not a big deal. I understand it's hard to read that way. The way I read it is I actually look at the, it's kind of like you do if you're familiar with HTML, right? So I typically look at this bottom piece first to see where my div ended. So I just look at, like, do I have curly brackets that are nested, like this, indented like this? And then I automatically know that it's a nested dictionary, right? If this was a hard bracket here, I would know that it's a dictionary within a list. So I kind of eye it that way to make sure that I understand what kind of like complex data I'm looking at. Cool. All right. So James Hoholik.
Yeah, that's kind of how I noticed what the on the quiz where it was like, what is this? I was like, well, that is a dictionary emblem, and that is a list. So obviously a dictionary or a list in a dictionary. So
good. Exactly. Okay, so if I want to print 95 right here, and I'll move it up so you can see it and be happier. Okay, I am going to call Alice first. Well, student data, because that's the main dictionary, right? Then I want to call Alice, right? I'm indexing into this key, which is the student's name. Then I'm going to index into grades, which is the next key inside the next dictionary. Okay, and then I'm going to call the next key, which is math. Make sense? So there's my 95. James, I hope.
I'm gonna be raising my hand a lot, I guess,
That's
today.
okay. It's okay.
It seems like indexing in my brain, because I understand the list thing, but it seems like indexing into a list is a whole lot easier than a list, because where you were trying to think of like, okay, this spot and this spot to get to correct. This one is like, oh, well, Alice, yep, there we go. And then her grades, yep, that's what we're looking at. And then, oh, we're looking at her math grades. Okay, that makes it easier.
Right. But in some cases you can't, right? If you're doing latitude, longitude, and you have a list of cities and states, right? You can't do it. You can't do a key pair, right? Or you can't do tuples that way. I'm sorry. If you do city state, right? And the state is the key and the city is the, what's it called? The pair, the value. You know, sometimes you can't avoid using a dictionary just because your data is as such, right? Cool. Peter.
So I'm looking at 5 dictionaries and 4 of them are nested.
So you have, this is one dictionary, okay? And then nested within that dictionary, you have another dictionary. So you technically have one outer dictionary, 2 inners, and then nested in each inner, you have one dictionary. So if I count, it'd be 1, 2, you said 5, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's 5. Cool. Awesome. So now how do I iterate through the next edition, the nested dictionary? I mean, anything nested, right? How do you actually do a for loop with it? You know, how do you call, like if it's a key value, if it's a dictionary. So let's look at that. Okay, so I'm going to keep the same examples, the matrix and the student data for now, and then we'll switch those in a minute. Copy my example here if it participates. Okay, so let me. Okay, so here I'm iterating through each row in, so for a row in matrix, right? And I want to, print each item, okay? So what does, if someone wants to raise their hand and tell me what they think it's gonna look like when I print this? Okay, so Wesley.
Okay, so for each row, so line 14 for each row in the matrix,
Mm-hmm.
for each item in each row,
Mm-hmm.
I'm printing the item. So it will go. It will print all the numbers, but it will print them all like one, and then another line will print 2, another
Exactly.
line 3, and go so forth.
Because you're looping, you'll receive this print statement on a new line each time. So yes, so it's starting on the outside. So this is your first iteration. It's the full list, right? Because that's your first object. Think about this if it was just like, so if it was just a simple list, right? So if I do matrix 1 equals, my computer is so gosh darn slow today. Okay. So it's all Sandra's fault because the other day she was talking about her computer being slow and I jinxed it, my own computer. Okay, so if you think about it, if I had a simple matrix like this, okay, where there's nothing nested, if the for loop occurred, it would go to the first object and loop through it, right? So because I have a nested for loop, it's going to go to the first one, and then that's this piece right here. So for row and matrix, it's going to start with the first object. Then because there's a nested for loop, I'm going to do for item in a row. So then it's going to go individually within that list. So that full object, exhaust its loop, and then move to the next one. So this piece has to be exhausted for each nested loop, for each nested list. It exhausts each object in that nested list, and then it moves on to the next nested list. Oh my gosh, it's quite the tongue twister today. Okay, so as Wesley said, we should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row, each number being on a separate line. And that's what we get. Cool. Any questions before we move on to the dictionary? Okay. So let's
Question.
look. Yes, go ahead. Is that Ephraim?
Yes, hey, how you doing?
Good.
So how would it look if you print out each list one by each row? Well, each list within the list, right?
So if I
Index
want to
0.
print, so if I do print row here like this, right?
Mhm.
If I understand what you're asking me, it's going to print the outer row first, and then the objects within it, right? And then it hits this, and that's going to be the first object, right? Once it reaches the first object, we're saying iterate through that object now. Is that what you're asking?
Exactly, yes.
Perfect.
I was just very curious of how you will print that out, but all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm curious how you would print out, let's say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and not 1, 2, 3.
So you would
How-
slice into it,
Oh, okay.
right? So you would do,
okay.
instead of doing 0 through 0, 1, 2. So it'd be 0 through 3 to slice it. You could do starting with 1 to 3. So
Do a hard
I
break.
want to do, yeah. And my computer's being super slow right now, and I don't know why.
I think it's my fault.
It is. You totally jinxed me. It's okay. Okay. See right here? So now it's starting at 4, 5, 6 because I sliced into it. Cool. And remember, when you're slicing, it doesn't include the last indexed, the last reference to the right of your colon. So you always have to make sure that you add one, or you take into account that it's not including that value, right? So I want objects 1 and 2, indexed objects 1 and 2. So I have to go all the way to 3. Okay. Cool. All right. Niaz, do you have another question? Your hand's still up. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at the dictionary. Okay, so how do we iterate through the dictionary? Okay, so I'm going to move this up. So we could see the dictionary and this together. Okay, so you remember, to iterate through a dictionary, you have to call the key and the value, or whichever it is that you're trying to access. Okay, so here I'm doing the key and the value, so which is the name, right? And I want to reiterate here, you can call the key and the value anything you want. This could be X and Y. It doesn't have to do anything to do with like what it actually is. So these terms here are basically a ghost iteration variable. Okay, so like I could say this is gobbledygook and it'll still know that I'm talking about a key. Okay, if you only call one thing here when it's a dictionary, Python will assume you're calling a key. Okay, so then I'm going to do student data, which is the name of my dictionary, dot items. By saying dot items, it means that I am accessing everything within the student data, that data set. Okay, if I don't say dot items, Donald.
Couldn't you just put I instead of items?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
am unsure. I can come back to that and look it up, but I think it's because it's a method. So anything with a dot is a method. So I don't think there's a method named dot I. I may be completely wrong, but
Okay, I get it. That's a
right?
method. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the method. So when you call dot items, you're telling Python, hey, I want to access everything. Okay. So then I'm printing. You can put your hand down, Donald. I'm going to print using the F string. I'm going to call name. Okay. And then I'm going to put a colon in. And again, it's an F string. And then I'm going to call the age. So now I want to reiterate, you can say X and Y, right? And it has nothing to do with your data. All you have to do is change X and Y here. It was name and data, right? Okay. So then so that's going to iterate through the outer dictionary. Okay. Then I want to access the inner dictionary, which is the subject and the grade. And then I'm going to call data. And this is going to be, I'm going to change it all back. Hold on. Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm saying this right. So I'm calling data, which is a value. I'm referencing grades, and I'm getting in all of the data within that grade, assuming that there's more, it's nested. Okay. So it's calling grades. And then I'm going to I want to access everything that's in grades. So that's why you have to call items. You can't just simply leave it like this, because it's not going to know when you call an item in here, it's not going to know that you're trying to access all of it individually, because we're indexing into an individual object, not the entire nested dictionary. Okay, so then I'm going to print the subject and the grade. So let's look at what this looks like. Okay, so the first iteration, it's printing a name and the age, okay, of the first dictionary. And then it goes inside that dictionary, into the nested dictionary, and then it's printing your grades only. Okay, Alice's grades only. So I'm accessing this piece by saying grades.items in the inside loop. James Hoholick.
So your capital A and age is light blue, like it would be in a list. Is there a reason why it's light blue? Because I see like it printed out age, it pretty much equals 21 down here, right? But up
Tell me
here,
what line you're speaking of.
so on line 24, your print statement, the F string name, colon, and then the capital A, or age right there, that right there is light blue, like as if it was in.
Because this is an F string, and these are just like, I've added this. I can change this to old, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
It's just text,
Okay.
right? Christian, Toro.
No, I was just gonna say that it's the F string, so whatever you type within is literal. With the
Yes.
curly brackets and the hard brackets, that's what you're trying to extract from the data.
Yes. So the curly bracket means to Python, it has to go find it, right? It has to find the value before it prints it. Okay. And that's why there's curly brackets here, right? I'm going to data, and then I'm saying age. Cool.
So the dot items, that pulls whatever is in the dictionary.
It gives you access to whatever's in that dictionary. if you don't say dot items, it's not going to give you access to the individual objects inside that nested dictionary or any dictionary. You always have to say dot items if you want to look at them individually. Andrew Borda. You're muted. You're still muted. I can't hear you. Will you say something?
I think he has to join his audio again.
Yeah, if you want to put it in text and chat and then, okay, I'll look at it. Are you putting it in chat? I'm waiting. I just want to make sure. If okay, cool. I'll wait. Oh yes, I did replace my batteries. Okay. Why is the name in curly brackets, was that assigned in the for loop? Yes. So yes. So I am assigning name and data as my ghost iterable variable names. This could be like literally, you can name these two things any darn thing you want. So you know when you say for I in nums and your list, your name of your list is called nums, and you can name I anything you want. This is exactly the same thing. So name and data are just placeholders for, and you can literally say here, you can say key and value. Okay, and then here you would do key, and this would be value. Okay, so then this would be value. Because your value has, this value has a nested dictionary. Okay, so now if I run this, it should be the same thing. Can you see? Yeah. So you see it gave us the same thing. So a lot of times I'll use key and value if I don't have like complicated stuff, and I'll just say key and value. This way I don't confuse myself. Yes.
So just to clarify, anytime you're using a for loop that, let's say instead of key and value, we use X and Y, that automatically, like the key will automatically go to the key of the dictionary and the value would automatically get assigned to the value of the dictionary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But make sure you're putting items here. Okay. That's when you put items here, it's expecting like if you only put one thing here, like you don't have to put values, right? And if I wasn't accessing these, like the keys, you don't even have to put keys here. I say if I only want values. I don't care about what the key is. Then you can access it that way. I only want the information about values, so I don't care what the key is. So you don't always have to do that. Paul.
Wait, can you delete keys again and run that, please? I want to see what that
It's not going to
like.
run because I'm referencing key here.
What if we delete that?
Hold on, let's just put value here. I just want to make sure that value here is value. Oh, I didn't say that. Sorry. Hold on.
Do you have to change the dot items?
No, I still need dot items because I'm accessing the values of it.
I thought dot items was when you wanted both the key and the value.
No, it's something else is wrong. Okay, for value. But see, the thing here is the value and subject.
Wouldn't you have to actually put not key, but value, because value right here, yeah, the age. So
Yeah.
the you're
I'll,
you're asking for a value
Mhm.
of a key, wouldn't you have to actually put 21 there?
Where's 21? What's 21?
Alice, so like her age is 21, right? Because
Mhm.
you're trying to get the value, but it looks like you're trying to get the value of a string.
Would you have to delete the second part of
Oh,
24
hold on.
to only access value once?
Hold on 1 second. String, and this is a type error. So what line is it on? 24. Oh, this is okay. The problem is this is a key.
Yeah.
So I still have to call if I take this part out. Now it's giving me the same error on the outside. Oh, I let me put that in so I can hear. Oh, so indices. Now was giving me line 25. It's the problem is I'm not accessing the key and the value on this side, on the outer loop, so it's not giving me. Hold on.
Wait, what if you instead just for line 24 instead of value put key in? It's similar. Yeah.
No, it's not going to give me key because key is not defined here. So you whatever you're calling underneath your for loop has to be defined right here. It has to be defined right there. Okay, so for subject grade and Bennett.
Now, isn't there a method called dot value?
Yes.
So would you, since you're only calling one, would you, since you just want the value, would you use data dot value?
Oh, here it's items because we're calling both.
So you're calling both.
Here I'm calling both, right? In this line, I'm accessing both the subject and the grade, right?
Okay, so I'm asking this question because I want to understand. Because when I see dot value, excuse me, when I see for value on line 23, I'm thinking that means you're only asking for the value.
Right.
So when you say you're calling both, I don't understand what you mean.
In this for loop, I'm calling both.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I'm calling the key and the value.
Oh, okay. So in the first loop, in the for loop on line 23, you use dot value.
Yes.
And then on line 25, you use dot items.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Paul, is your hand up because I still haven't answered it? I'll answer it. I'll answer it later. I'll figure it out. It's going to be something little, and my brain is not in that space right now. So
I hear you.
I'll
Thank
answer.
you.
No. It's sometimes it's hard to like figure it out on the fly, and like you can't sit there and think about it in the quiet space of your head. Yes, I'll put it up. I'll put it up for you, or I'll answer it before we leave class. It's no worries. Okay, so what if I want to modify one item in the in this list? Let's start with the list. What if I want to modify something here? Someone wants to raise their hand and tell me what to do?
Well, I know.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to. I was like, wait, I forgot to raise my hand. Well, I know on list you would do append, correct?
Yeah. So if I want to modify this one, the 9, what do I do?
Oh boy,
Wesley.
I wish. Oh, I can't see your screen anymore. Everything went
Oh.
black.
Your screen went black.
Is it mine? Is it blank
Yes.
for everybody?
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Here we
It's
go.
back.
There we go. So matrix. So then I would call the list, or I would call the list. So matrix, hard brackets,
Mhm.
2, hard brackets, 2 equals, and instead of 9, I'll say 10 equals 10.
Okay.
And then I will then reprint, and then if I print the new matrix list, it should amend that
Okay.
from 9 to 10.
So you want me to do print matrix here?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. There you go. So all you're doing is you are reassigning the value to matrix. Okay. So here, like Wesley said, we're going to index 2 in the list, right? So that's 7, 8, 9. And then we call index 2 within this list, which is 9, and we're reassigning it with the value 10. So James Hoholik, you wanted to append, right?
Yeah, I misunderstood. It was you were asking about the reassign, not add two. Add two, you would use append.
Okay, so what do you want to, if I want to do append, what's it going to do?
So wouldn't it be matrix dot append?
Okay, so you want to do matrix dot append, right?
And then what then we would do 2 square bracket 2.
You want me to put a square bracket here and put a 2 here? And what do you think it's going to do?
But I still got to add 10 to it. Yeah. I see what you mean by the whole doing it off the cuff. Like I know where my brain's
That's okay.
at.
So if I want to add a list that's by itself, like 10 here, right? This is going to add actually, let's do 10 and 11. So it looks.
Oh, I forgot those ones. Okay. I knew there was something I was missing.
See right there.
Yeah.
Here we change this to 10, and then I'm appending another list. I mean, I could even do just append 10. Right? That's going to add, instead of it being another list at the end, it's just going to add an individual integer. See right here? It's just an integer versus another list. If I do append, it's going to add it to the end. I don't know who had their hand up first. Wesley? Maybe?
Yes. So keeping with 10, say we and get rid of the no, I think you can keep the append, the append 10, but if we put in matrix and then hard brackets 2, then we add the dot append. And then in parentheses, add 10.
Is that what you want?
Yes, please.
So what do you want to happen there?
I'm looking to add 10 into that new list.
So it's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 then. That's what you're expecting to see.
Yes, please.
Yep. And you're right. That's what will happen. Because now I've called the second object in my list, which is, it's the object with index 2, right? So it's technically, physically the third one, but index 2. So now you have right here, right here. This is Wesley's example, right? So now you have 2 10s inside of this list. And then you have Christian Toro.
So you could technically add another list into the second index of matrix.
Yes. Yeah. So let's do that.
Can we see that like
absolutely.
inception going on?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me. So instead here, I want to add another nested list, right? So here I would do again. I'm just going to do A and B, right? Okay. Oh, hold on. There you go. So now you have the second index in this list has now a nested list inside of it. Right? So to call this, how would you call it, Christian?
That's a good question. Well, it's index 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be matrix 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then another 1 in there.
If you want to call A.
Yeah.
0, 1, 2. So that's this outer one. And then I'm calling the first. So technically, is that correct? Because you have 4 objects in this at this index placement, right? So do I have to call 4 first? And I'm sorry, not 4, 3, because 0, you're 7, 8, and 9. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3, right?
Yeah, the list is third. Yeah.
So I should do, what do I have here? I need to put a 3 in here. Then call object 1 to get A, right? No print. Save. Why? So right here, I did B. Oh, I'm sorry, if I do 0, it's A. Wrong index number. Remember 0 and 1. There's my A. Cool. Awesome. Nias.
Yeah, just I'm just keeping up with my train of thought. So if okay, so just to clarify, right? If dot remove will remove from the list, but dot pop will remove from the dictionary.
They both work on lists. It's just they both work a little bit differently.
But remove won't work on a dictionary.
Yeah,
right?
remove won't work.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
cool.
correct. Yeah. Okay. So going on to the dictionary, let's see how that works. Right. So let me comment all this out. Go down to the dictionary. Okay. So we have this dictionary, the student data, and I want to add a grade for Bob, and change. I'm sorry, I'm not adding it. I'm changing his grade from a 92 to a 95. So how do we do that? Anyone want to raise their hand and tell me? Paul.
Sorry, which one did you want to edit?
So I want to change English here to a 95.
Okay. Would it be student data? Then I think it's hard brackets. Alice.
We want to change Bob. Right.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah, we're changing Bob's English grade from a 92 to a 95.
Okay.
So we're saying Bob. Okay.
It's either colon or you do another hard bracket that I'm not sure.
So you do another hard bracket because you do them sequentially. You don't need colons to separate anything. So then what do I call
it? Grades.
And then?
Another hard bracket.
Okay.
English.
Okay. And then?
Colon, and then you change the value to the 95.
I want a colon.
Isn't it?
I want to reassign the value. I want to reassign the value of this key pair. So do I use a colon? What do I use?
I thought it was a colon. If not colon, then equal.
Yes, equal, because you're reassigning, right? You're reassigning the value of English of the key pair, right, to 95.
Okay.
Right.
Grades need to be
Yep.
quotes.
Okay. I'm going to turn my camera off to see if that helps with the. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to keep my camera off, but I'm trying to figure out why my computer is running so slow. Okay, so let me save this and let's print student data. Save it. So, there you go. So it printed it to 90, it changed the value of English to 95 for Bob. Kevin.
A quick question. Can you also can you use the replace method if you wanted to change the number?
Yeah, you could do a replace. Yeah. So you could do dot replace. Let's try that. And attribute error object has no int object has no it's saying because it's oh, when you do replace, don't you have to show don't you have to say what you're replacing something with?
Yeah.
Yeah, separated by a comma.
Yeah, so it should be, if I do 92 comma. Let's try that. What's it saying?
Does it not work on dictionaries?
36. Jay, go ahead.
I think it might be because it only works for strings.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree because it's an integer. Jessica, will you look at the dot replace up rule?
I will.
Thank you. Miles. You're muted. I still can't hear you.
Can anyone else hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So let's say that student data, this dictionary was inside of a list, right? Would you then to change the English grade have to call the index first before Bob, and then like would you do student data hard brackets 0 and then hard brackets Bob and then hard brackets grades like that?
So you want to do lists like this? Like Bob is a list and then
Nope, like the whole dictionary is a list.
Okay, so you want to change this to a list. Right?
Right, but then all that stuff is still a dictionary.
This is a dictionary, right? So you can't make this hard brackets because these are dictionaries, right?
Right.
So it's because this is the first key of the dictionary, right? It changes it to a different data structure. Well, it doesn't change it to a tuple because a tuple you don't use colons. But this is the structure of this data is not a list. The structure of this data is a dictionary, right? So I would have to,
So like what I was saying,
mhm,
so you're keeping the whole dictionary,
right.
the most outer dictionary,
Oh,
and
okay. So you want me to do this? And then what do you want me to do?
and then we would be taking this dictionary
Mhm.
and putting it into a list. The entire dictionary of student data,
Mhm.
and we would be making that the first index in a list of, let's say, 18 different student data sets with 2 students each.
Oh, so you want this student data to be a nested list inside of, it would be
But
it would be index 0 of a list?
right,
Okay. And then, yeah, so you would have to then call the list first 0 and then do everything else the same way.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what
so you would
I was
call the
wondering
list.
if it like you take both ways and basically just put them together.
Yeah. You would do, yes, because you're calling by index at that point. So in a dictionary, you call by the key, and in index, you call, I mean, in a list, you call by index. So if student data was object 0 inside of a list, then you would do object 0 index, you would call the index and then everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quick follow-up question. If it was reversed and you had this one big dictionary, and let's say that the ages
Mm-hmm.
were in a list
Mm-hmm.
and grades were a separate dictionary,
Mm-hmm.
would you, oh well, I guess not, because we're only calling grades, not ages.
Right.
Okay.
So if you wanted to, like, you could put everybody's age in like a separate, if you want to, like, you literally could restructure all the data and say, like, the math is the first index and the grade, like the grade, everything is indexed exactly the same way. That if you had a list of just grades, right, you would have, the first list would be all the subjects, right? And then your next list would be all the grades for those subjects for a certain student, right? So you could do it that way, but it depends on how you're using the data and what makes the most sense in that way, right? And again, this goes back to thinking about the output and what the intent is, and then structuring your data that way. So you could certainly do your grade, the ages, your grades, all these kinds of things in separate lists, and then call them that way. And then as long as your order was kept the same, you could certainly do it that way. But you know how data is, right? Data is finicky. And so what happens if, like, one object becomes corrupt in your index, in your list? What do you do, right?
Right.
So then you don't know which object is corrupt, and then it messes up all your data because it's all synced incorrectly.
Would we also want to kind of keep it succinct this way because it makes it easier to change the values as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll set up another data list so you guys can look at it, like, with the ages and the grades separately, and then, like, you guys can play with it that way. Okay, so I just wanted to post, the next thing I want to do is post to show a real life scenario. Paul, you can ask your question while I'm pasting.
Oh, question. Wouldn't this type of data manipulation be easier using the pandas library?
Yes.
So then my question is, what real world instances would it make more sense to structure data like this rather than in a CSV or a spreadsheet format?
It's quite possible that this is the way you got the data and you don't have the option to change it. It's client data. They sent it to you like this and you're stuck with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And my next example with blog posts, when typically in blog posts and you have a blog on the back end, your data is going to be in a dictionary. So just like I'm showing here, when you post to a blog, you know, and I'm including Facebook, Instagram, all those kinds of wacky, you know, social media things. When you save these, like if you're saving like a comment, so here it's a blog post, it's title, author, comments, right? On the back end of almost every blog is a dictionary, right? It's going to be what the title is as your key, and then the value is the subject, right? So typically this is how it works in a blog. So here, if I want to access and print the post information, I have to access the post ID, which is a 1, right? And then the data, right, which is titles. And then the author, like if I want to do title and author, if I want to print the values of those, right? So here, if I'm printing in a loop, I'm going on the outside loop first, which is blog posts. And then I'm going into the inner loops. I'm looping on the nested loop, the individual dictionaries that comprise of the posts that are numerically saved. So here, you can see I'm doing so it's saying post 1. So here it's going to the first post, right? So line 41 is your first post and the ID is a 1. So this is your key and the entire dictionary is your value. And then you have a nested, Miles, you asked about the nested, this is a nested list, right, inside, but that's not really what you wanted, but it's a nested list inside of a dictionary. So then I'm calling data, which is the key value here. So what the title is, and then who the author is. James Hoholick.
So I'm guessing that's why, is it because of your OCD? Or is it if you tried to put comments in this F string, it wouldn't work?
Oh, no. I just wanted it to be clear, like in the terminal for you guys, like that. Yeah. And because because I want to show the comments, this is a nested list, right? It's the value of comments is a nested list. It's not just a one comment, because you know, like you in Instagram, people are making comment after comment after comment. So this is a list of comments. So I have to, for comment and data, right? I'm not calling dot items because comment is a list. The value is a list. So I wanted to show it separately because it is 2 different data types. When we get to APIs, we're going to learn how to print through an API, the data from an API, and then modify it. You know, the challenge, is about data validation and, error handling and making sure that you don't create this endless issue of debugging, right? So the cleaner your data is to start with, the better it is if you have the opportunity to actually build your own data. Understanding the structure, using appropriate data types, and as you guys gain experience, you'll understand which data types to use. Should I use a list or should I use a dictionary? Should I use a tuple? All the, like any data structure. Other than that, I think that nested data is essential for handling complex data structures if you're not going to use a database, right? And it's a good practice to understand these, and because you won't always have a database to work with. Sometimes it's just the data that you get dumped on, and this is what you have. Paul, do you still have another question?
No, sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's good. I didn't want to say that you're asking too much. I just wanted to ask.
Appreciate it.
Different one. Okay. Anybody else before we go to break? Cool. All right. So we're going to take a break until it's 7:40. Let's take a 15-minute break and come back at 7:55. James Holik.
Jessica, did you print out the driver list again, or are we picking ourselves again?
I have one. I will, it'll be posted when you return from your break.
Okay, just double checking.
Okay.
Asha, will you meet me in room 8?
Are they created yet? Oh, you're doing it now. Okay. Sorry. What's happening?